Hi, you're watching Weekend Project with Doug McCon. This is a t-shirt that says "Stand back, I'm a professional." We're going to first cut off the water. We've got to cut off the power. We're working on a dishwasher that's been leaking, so we've got some tools that we're going to need, as well as the part. There it is. I didn't scale these pictures correctly, so they're rather large. First thing we have to do is disconnect the water supply. This is where the leak was actually happening, not at this point, but inside behind it. A piece of plastic had failed and was causing a leak. Now there may have been other leaks in here that I already addressed. The repairman who came out said that it was I forget what it's called. It's the pump housing at the bottom of the dishwasher. So my previous repair had actually been, because the pump housing was going to be like $260 to replace, which would just mean replacing the dishwasher itself. Now we're coming in here, now that we've got the line disconnected, we're going to take this piece out so that we can actually access the part that we want. And this is just a piece of plastic that's twisted on. And what I've done here is I've put in a crescent wrench and used a second crescent wrench to give me some leverage to be able to spin that without damaging anything inside or scratching up the dishwasher. Now, the pump housing would actually be just below that. There's the other side of that piece. And what we're going to do is end up disconnecting the hose. Not all of them. We don't need to completely remove this piece. We just have to be able to create a little space in there where I can get my hand in. So we're going to get this tube off. And that's just a little compression fitting that you squeeze and it'll come right off. Of course, I put a rag under that to catch the drips. Now we can access the actual inlet. And there's two screws that hold it in, so we're going to take those out. And there's a third screw that has a ground wire on it. Don't lose the ground wire. You're going to need that again. Now, when the repairman came out, it was funny. He was working on the dishwasher, and I said, "So what's your recommendation on the dishwasher?" And he was working on it. He'd already pulled it out from the cabinet and was in there, and he goes, "Oh, anything except Samsung." And then he looks up and goes, "Yeah, sorry about that, because this is a Samsung dishwasher." And he's right. I've spoken to many people, and there's just, don't buy Samsung kitchen appliances. We're pretty happy with the fridge and the range and the oven and the microwave, but this dishwasher has been a nightmare. And I bought the extended warranty on it, but had a horrible time with the warranty company. We first had them out for one repair, and they seemed to have fixed it. Then the second time we had them out, they never showed up, and I called them back. Now at this point, we've got to access a little metal thing that's partially blocked by this electronic component. So we're going to take off the cover because that's holding it into the actual mounting stuff. So once we take the cover off, there's nothing holding in it but a couple of clips. The problem is when I watched the YouTube video on how to do this, they just said pull it off. And what it actually is it has two little protrusions on the bottom that go into two little holes. And when I pulled it out, I angled it instead of pulling it straight out. So I snapped off those feet, which is no big deal because the screws are going to hold it in. Might add a little vibration to one of the cycles. Maybe we'll add a little bit more noise because there's plastic vibrating in it, but I don't think it will, because after the screws are in, there's no reason. The feet were almost extraneous. So what I'm doing over here is there's 4 screws that hold in that metal flashing, and then there's 2 tabs. What you do is you grab the tabs with a pair of pliers, and you pull them forward a little bit out of a notch. And then this whole metal thing will drop down to give you access to the mounting spot where the pump is. You can see the pump right here is at a 45-degree angle or so because I was trying to get it out without having to go through all this effort. But it's completely blocked. You've got to pull this thing down to be able to access that pump and be able to actually get it out. And you don't have to take the whole thing off. If you watch some other YouTube videos, they've got the dishwasher on its back at this point. It's easier to access, and probably I wouldn't have broken the tabs that I wanted. Now, if you look over here on the right side, you see those 2 square holes. I actually had to there were a couple little snaps in there, and there's another piece of electronic that was mounted at that point. So you have to snap that out also. At this point, we've got the pump out, and the new pump does not come with this elbow, so you've got to recover the elbow. So we're just using the pliers to hold it, and of course the crescent wrench to take it off. Once it gets off, we're going to have to get all that old Teflon tape off of it. What's interesting is when I was watching the YouTube video on how to do this, the guy said put Teflon tape on it. Of course, he only did it on one side. Now, I end up here putting Teflon tape on both sides, and then I'll be honest, I ended up removing it from one side, which goes against my gut, because I mean, with those threads and high pressure water, you kind of want that Teflon tape. But I was taught 6 reps, and that's what I've done on all my plumbing, threaded plumbing, is 6 wraps of Teflon tape. Well, that was just too much for that one side, so you can see later on I get a little frustrated and just take the Teflon tape completely off, and I figured it's easily accessible, so if it leaked, I was just going to put it back on. Maybe with 3 wraps instead of 6. I mean, if you don't wrap enough, it doesn't really do any good anyway. Gotta get the hose back on here. Another little compression clamp. I don't have words today, so whatever the proper name for that is. Now, at this point, you can see that L-shaped flashing, and I'm pulling it away to be able to fit the pump back into the slot that it goes in. And it's got these 2 guides on it, on this black plastic. It's kind of got a little thin piece of plastic that creates kind of a rail that this pump will slide down on. And then, of course, it gave me some difficulty because this tube's bumping into things and giving me some resistance, and then I couldn't exactly line up the slides, the little slits, that well. Eventually I got them in, and then what you do is you come back in, and I think at this point I've already put the screws into the pump housing, so I reattached the screws, but I forgot to do the ground wire at the same time. So as I put this metal flashing back on, I pinched the ground wire, so it was a little bit of effort to get the ground wire back out. The other thing I didn't do here was that electronic piece that I snapped out of this that was sitting on top of it, where those 2 square holes were. I forgot to put that back on, so I'm going to have to go back and do that. Again, it doesn't cause a problem. It doesn't get in the way. It's not going to cause any functionality problems with the dryer, but it might be just a rattling piece of plastic that we don't want the noise from. So here we're going to put these electronics back on. This is where you can see the 2 slots where the tabs go that no longer exist, which is okay, because if we get 2 more years out of this dryer, the dishwasher, I'll be happy, and we're due for a kitchen remodel anyway. And then put the cover back on it, and when you're putting the cover on, this is actually going to hold that piece of plastic on, which again is why I think those footings, the plastic knobs that were on the bottom of this, are kind of extraneous. Of course, when you're dealing with a dishwasher, you've got vibrations, and I'm sure it has something to do with trying to minimize any noise. Every dishwasher maker wants to tell you how quiet the dishwasher is, and if you've got a piece of plastic and they're rattling, it's not going to hold up right. Here's where I had the 6 wraps of Teflon tape on this side, and I was just having trouble getting it on, so I ended up taking the Teflon tape off, using just bare threads there, which is fine. I've tested it, it's not leaking. Thing about plumbing, you can over-tighten. You can be both too loose or too tight, and sometimes when you do have a leak, you've got to actually back off a little bit, and plumbing is interesting. Now we've got to get this piece tightened back on again, so I've already put it on by hand, but you can see it's that little vertical is supposed to be straight up. Now it's locked into place, and there's words at the top that say open it. Turn the power back on, turn the water back on, and immediately had an error message 4E, which means intake water problem, and it was because I forgot to plug the pump in. So There's the electricity to the pump. Of course, I've turned the power off at this point. Didn't want to shock myself. But once you get that piece in, now the pump can actually work. It's not going to work without electricity. So we go in and we turn it on. Go ahead and start a wash. And we're going to, there it is. We've got wash. And coincidentally, it says normal. It's just a normal wash. And that's it in a nutshell. Obviously, the next steps are to clean everything up. There's no leaks there. Let's give it a good thumbs up here. Yes. And put the sides back on. Put the side of the cabinet back on, and it's done. So there is a Samsung dishwasher repair. Appreciate you guys hanging with me for this length of time to watch a silly video. There's the shirt. It says, "Stand back, I'm a professional." And I'm holding my thumb up in that picture. Have a good day.